Not
Iraq
what's,
did
but
not
check,
attack
but check,
us.
that check. That is not what's
So,
happening.
and in this case, Iran did not attack Israel.
Oh, but check.
Israel attacked Iran. Stop lying.
Yeah,
Stop lying.
Check.
Israel attacked Iran.
Okay.
Iran did not attack Israel.
Yo, what's up, guys? Today, we've got a clip where Cenk Uygur goes absolutely nuclear on the pro-war talking heads. We're talking brutal honesty, zero filter, while some folks keep pushing the same tired propaganda. Cenk steps in and rips it to shreds, live, on air. Whether you agree with him or not, this is one of those moments that makes you stop and think, wait, are we being played? Let's get into it.
Why is that absurd, Cenk?
Because here we go again with the neocons, just like they did with the Iraq war. We're going to liberate the Iranians by dropping a bomb on their heads. And once we murder them, they'll love us and they'll want to get rid of their regime. You can tell all these stories about the regime, and those are true. They're fundamentalists. They're not good guys at all. Saddam was not a good guy. That doesn't mean that we had to invade Iraq and cost ourselves several $1 trillion and over 50,000 Americans dead on behalf of Israel, who at the time called Iraq their number 1 enemy, and who had
But that is not what's that is not what's happening.
And in this case, Iran did not attack Israel.
Oh, but check.
Israel attacked Iran. Stop lying.
Yeah,
Stop lying. Israel attacked Iran.
Okay.
Iran did not attack Israel.
Oh man, Cenk came in hot. He didn't just throw punches. He threw the whole history book. Whether you agree or not, you have to admit he dragged the entire neocon playbook out into the open. Liberate them with bombs? Yeah, we've definitely heard that line before. And calling out Israel's role like that on live TV, that's bold. Let's see how Piers tries to spin this next.
I'm perfectly happy to say
Israel is the aggressor.
They did through their proxies, Piers. They did through their proxies.
Yeah,
Iran
I don't think they can be
on a daily basis.
I just think when anyone tries to defend
these guys and fund Hamas and Hezbollah, think like you cannot be this dumb. I understand that you're a propagandist for the regime, but you and I both know
I understand you work for Israel, but America First didn't want any
multiple terrorist organizations. They have no funding without Iran.
When I hear you guys describing Israel's enemies,
they attack Israel every day. You know that. You're not that dumb. You're a smart guy.
Sure.
You're a propagandist, but you know that.
Sure. So when I hear you guys describing Israel's enemies, what you're actually doing is projection. You're describing Israel attacking all of their neighbors, killing civilians, an aggressive military empire interested in acquisition and wiping out their enemies.
All right.
You know who said from the river to the sea? Benjamin Netanyahu. Who's actually doing from the river to the sea? Benjamin Netanyahu. Who started all the wars? Benjamin Netanyahu. Get out, America, get out of this war. This has nothing to do with us. These guys work for Israel.
Okay, let me bring in Jack,
and the idea that the Iranian people want to be killed, the idea that the Iranian people want to be invaded and bombed is insanity. They do not want that.
Now this is Cenk Uygur unleashed. He's not just ranting, he's cutting into the double standard of U.S. foreign policy with a sledgehammer. Notice how the pro-war speaker tries to paint Iran as the sole aggressor, but Cenk flips the narrative, calling out Israel's preemptive strikes and the reality of proxy warfare. He's right to question why every time there's tension in the Middle East, America is expected to jump into another multi-trillion-dollar disaster that costs our troops, our economy, and our global reputation. Cenk's main point hits hard. This war has nothing to do with defending America. And calling out Netanyahu's long-standing push for war, that's not anti-Israel. That's anti-endless war. Big difference. He's aggressive, yes, but behind the fire is a truth. Being pro-peace doesn't mean being pro-Iran. It means thinking critically before sending more young Americans to die for interests that aren't ours. Let's see how the war hawk responds.
No, but I do think a lot of people in Iran, I do think a lot of people in Iran would probably much prefer to have a different kind of ruler than they currently have, who operates such a draconian and repressive regime.
They do not want Israeli rulers.
Okay, well, that's a different question. Let me come to Jack. You've been waiting very patiently. Jack, Cenk mentioned America first and how this is incongruous with America first. Well, at the moment, this appears to be an Israeli operation. They've started this war with Iran. Donald Trump appears to be taking a position of, we don't want to get involved here, making it clear this is not being done with America's obvious physical help. Albeit, I don't think he's too bothered about it happening and probably quite pleased if it does destabilize Iran. But where does this all sit with Donald Trump's America First ideology? Should America, if it comes to it, I mean, if Iran suddenly attacks an American base, for example, should America get involved in this war?
Well, Piers, this is not America's war. This is a war that is confined to two parties in the Middle East. This is a war where the United States absolutely faces the threat of escalation. And as you mentioned, this mission creep and spilling over into the wider footprint of American military that exists throughout the Middle East. And I don't just mean Iraq and Syria. I mean all of the American bases, which are clearly within range of, you mentioned the proxies, you mentioned all these other forces out there. Of course, it strikes the danger of spilling over, not to mention the IRGC has the ability to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, and imagine what that would do to global shipping and oil prices. By the way, they haven't done that. And 10 years ago today, Donald Trump comes down the golden escalator. And what did he say? No more foreign, endless wars. And instead, why don't we focus on the problems at home? He talked about, obviously, illegal aliens. He talked about deportations, but he said trillions of dollars spent in Iraq, trillions spent in Afghanistan. And what did it get for us? Nothing. Dead soldiers, wounded soldiers. We got absolutely nothing out. And you want to talk about destabilization? Well, I think those wars, the massive wars on terror, wars that, by the way, when I was in the United States military, I did participate in, at least in an intelligence capacity. But what did that do to the region? It destabilized it. Syria, completely destabilized right now. Iraq, completely destabilized. Yeah. And Afghanistan, the Taliban is even in a better position than they were before we got involved, because they have all the U.S. military equipment that we left there. And so every time the U.S. gets involved in one of these things, it actually seems to make the situation much, much worse.
Okay, let's take a short break.
This ending wrapped it all up like a punch to the gut, and Jack absolutely nailed it. Let's be real. The U.S. has no business getting dragged into another Middle Eastern conflict, especially not one that wasn't even started by us. Cenk and Jack both pointed out what should be obvious by now. Every time America helps, things get worse. Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, trillions wasted, thousands of lives lost, and no real win. And this part, they haven't shut down the Strait of Hormuz? Yeah, because Iran, for all its bluster, knows escalation hurts everyone. But if the U.S. steps in, that strait might go dark fast. Think $300 oil, think global recession, think chaos. Also, it's insane how quickly people forget that Trump's most popular message wasn't the wall, it was no more endless wars. Whether you like him or not, he struck a nerve with millions of Americans who were sick of watching their country bleed for conflicts that solve nothing. This war isn't about defending America, it's about Israel versus Iran. And once again, politicians are trying to sell us someone else's fight wrapped in a flag. All right, that's enough madness for one video. We've got politicians playing world police again, and media cheerleaders acting like war is a video game. If you're tired of the same old lies, make sure you hit that like button, smash subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one of them.